Sorry, it was funny when you, I'm glad you were happy with the park stuff.
Yeah.
But it was funny when you asked me, I asked Joe, hey, is there any more stuff? Not a whole lot of it. And he was like, so then I forgot.
Oh, that's not a problem.
I submitted tonight,
Oh, cool.
15 minutes ago.
I'll probably, when the vote comes up, I'll probably say a couple words about what it actually is. Okay.
Do it. It's for Chris.
Okay.
Some award they resurrected, they used to do it all the time. I like, as I go down, I just want turtles and some new faces.
Yeah. It's showing today.
Yeah,
Are they angry or not?
I don't know. Let's see. Oh, my. I don't know until I say. He did, but I
In
didn't.
his tuxedo.
I didn't emblazon it in my memory. I have limited. Is that real?
Memory, yeah, sure.
See, I have to conserve. So,
Good evening. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
that's different.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Calabrese,
Present.
Councilor Fascio,
Present.
Councilman Waldron,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Sapp is not joining us this evening. She's under the weather. Councilman Crestis,
Present.
May I get a motion for the approval of the minutes?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from, I believe, 3 December meetings.
that's correct.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Counselor Fascio. May I get a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Fascio,
Yes.
Councilman Waldron,
Yes.
Councilman Crestis,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes.
Minutes approved.
May I get a motion for item number 4, ratification of the expenditures?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Carestis.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the January 2025 expenditures and the February 2025 expenditures. The January expenditures totaling $2,120,985.75, and the February expenditures totaling $3,106,142.28.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment?
Greg Swatchick, 648 Gray Mac Lane. Thank you, Mayor. This is just sort of a carryover that I can buzz off now from 2 months ago, when I discovered, at least me for the first time, that the solicitor, Craig Alexander, left Bruce Dice and Associates and has been on his own. And it just prompted a question that I had for him, I don't know if he's comfortable or obligated to answer it, but I'd just like to know if he has any liability insurance as an individual doing his own thing versus the Bruce Dice liability insurance. For the sake of Penn Hills and his advice and decision-making, it's just something I think that everyone, the public, ought to have a right to know. And I don't mean to imply or infer anything, negative, but I'd just like to know for the record whether or not it's in place or pending or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to let folks know how the process works here, this is a formal meeting, and so it may appear that we're answering each other quite formally, and we do because we're making a record. So typically, this is the portion of the meeting for public comment. We do have opportunities for back and forth. We have a second meeting each month where we do that. You also have access to us. You don't have to just come to meetings to ask questions. But having said that, so this typically is not a portion for back and forth. I am going to make an exception, though, and ask Attorney Alexander if he wants to answer that question.
Sure, I think the question is, do I maintain professional liability insurance? And the answer is, the question is, you can look that up on the website for the disciplinary board. Every lawyer is required to sign a declaration that they either do or do not maintain liability insurance in excess of $300,000. And I do. I think my liability coverage is $2 million.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Waldron,
Yes.
Councilman Crestus,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilor Fascio.
Yes.
Expenses for January and February approved. Next is the portion of the meeting dedicated to public comment for individuals that signed up to address council on non-agenda items. Those residents had to sign up at least a week in advance. And so when I call your name in the order that you've signed up to speak, please come to the podium and speak closely and clearly into the microphone. And if you could, please state your name and address for the minute taker as well. Greg Swachik. And if you could keep your remarks to 3 minutes, too. Thank you.
Okay. If I could just start the clock after I do a handout, because this will help explain.
Okay,
That's fine.
we'll give you that.
I'm just handing them out because there's like 2 stapled stacks, and I know you could probably figure it out. Okay, start the clock. And if you want to make it more than 3 minutes, since we missed last month, I still think I can get done. That's mayor's discretion. Okay, I numbered the pages so you could just quickly follow this. The first one's an article that deals with our municipal engineer situation. And as you can see, the 2 new council members were too new to comment per the article in the Penn Hills Progress. And the managers referred it to later filling in the public after the details are discovered. I really don't know the relationship. I've asked the engineer if he's seen this article or knew there was any competition of who to choose. He claimed he didn't know anything about it. And I'd just like to know if he is, in fact, the municipal engineer. I know before he was coming to meetings and not getting paid, I said I think he should get paid. I don't know if he's maybe getting paid by Gateway to come here free or whatever, but I'd just like to know for the record the relationship, who our engineering company is and who our municipal engineer is and what the relationship is between all 3 entities with our municipal engineer. The next thing, the invoice for Gateway on page 3. Sherry may be able to clear this up at the top of the sheet. I'm wondering if that's for PO 2402925. We don't have to know now, but maybe sometime in the future under the new rules, I guess if you give a 5-day notice to the appropriate department head, the manager could relay that information, if not the actual department head. The other thing is I noticed some over 30-day payments in the invoice for Gateway. If someone could comment on that, if we kind of pay our bills on time, if we don't have the money or what, but there's a penalty there, and we ought to try to avoid that kind of a situation and just pay for services rendered. The other part here, Craig did comment. I'm glad he's not the school district solicitor and the municipal solicitor, so there's never really a potential conflict of interest, not just if there's a court case, Mayor, but just the executive session advice that he could give. It's almost like a husband and wife considering a divorce, and they independently, you know where I'm going with this, consider hiring an attorney to file for divorce and get advice before it's filed. The guy's in a real lucrative position, which I think is inappropriate. The other thing is the school district, $100 for Halloween candy. You commented how the business entities are different. I'd just like to know by what mechanics that happened. It's on page 13. And the last thing is site plan 550, Vigley Auto.
I'm so sorry, the 3 minutes is expired.
And please keep in mind, you can always, you don't have to just do it at public comment. We're happy to talk with you. We can even talk afterwards, and anybody can listen and so forth. You can come during the day.
Mayor, I did try to talk with you once. You walked in the door and said you're not willing to do that for people that misquote you. And I said, how did I misquote you? And you just walked away.
Chief, I think.
Okay, I understand that. It's just a fair rebuttal. I tried to talk to you.
I'm going to. I do want to address something here because I don't want there to be any misunderstanding. The school district and the municipality are two separate entities. You might notice that with your tax bill. So they are two separate entities. Our solicitor is our solicitor, and the school district can have any solicitor they would like. There is no conflict, although he's not their solicitor. But I do want to make it abundantly clear that we are two separate entities, and I will just address or just briefly address the Halloween candy for the school district. Although we are separate entities, we do serve the same population. So we do have events like we will have, I'll call it a Halloween parade. So school kids, kids don't care that, they don't even know what a municipality is, right? They don't care where they get candy from. And some of the school kids, though, the high school, I believe it was the cheerleaders, it may have been more high school kids, they helped, they volunteered. If you've ever been to the parade, it's at the park, and sometimes there has to be a drive-through depending on the weather. Sometimes it's a walk-through. But it's a big deal, when you're a child to go to a parade. So our director of Parks and Recs had some folks, some kids, some teenagers help volunteer, and I believe that they were given a stipend, and I believe that some candy was given. So I can't say directly what type of candy, or I don't know exactly which high schoolers were involved, but that's the interplay. We had school children come through, and we had high schoolers who came in and helped volunteer. And that's our connection, but otherwise we are two separate entities. Somebody else.
Mr. Slavin, Andrew Slavin, had signed up. Is he here tonight? Does not appear that he is. So if he joins us late, it'll be up to the mayor whether you want to allow that time if he happens to come in.
Okay, you can do that.
Next on the agenda is I'm going to defer to the solicitor for some of the mechanics of it, but Under the rules in place for transferring a liquor license into the community, a public hearing has to be held. So that's the purpose of tonight's hearing. Later on in the agenda, the municipality is being asked to consider giving approval to a liquor license for the Giant Eagle on Rhode Eye Road. So as part of that process, they're asking the municipality to give approval to that. So at this time, we would open up a public hearing, and that's why the stenographer is here to take notes for that. So at this time, the hearing is open. If anybody would like to address this issue, it's just this issue on the liquor license and the accompanying legislation that's on the agenda. Now would be the time to open the floor to that. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name's Ellen Freeman. I'm an attorney with Flaherty and O'Hara. I represent Giant Eagle, so I thought it might be best if I opened it up, and then if there's any questions, I can certainly come back to the microphone and respond to any of those. But as I mentioned, my name is Ellen, attorney with Flaherty and O'Hara. We're a law firm based in Pittsburgh, and all we do is liquor licensing. So if you have any questions that I've not answered on the liquor law, then I'd be happy to respond. Giant Eagle operates about 59 locations with liquor licenses in Pennsylvania. They've been doing so for over a decade, so they have a lot of experience in this area. They were the successful bidder of a liquor license at the last Liquor Control Board auction. So that's a silent auction that the Liquor Control Board puts on. They put in a silent bid, and they were the receiver of the Allegheny County liquor license. So that is the liquor license that they're looking to transfer to the store within the municipality. So in the municipality, or at the store in the municipality, they would remodel it. Likely to be, if you're familiar with the store, to be back in the left-hand corner where the greeting cards are. Giant Eagle is very cautious of not losing any product when they put a liquor license into their stores. They understand that what they'll do is they'll shift product. They will minimize any product that doesn't sell well at the store, but they're very conscious to make sure that all the product that's popular is going to stay put in that store. So back in potentially the right-hand corner, they'll be putting seating for 30, which is a liquor code requirement. They're very creative with their seating in order to fit 30 seats. I know it does sound like a lot, but they are able to use booths as well as high top tables to really be conscious of the space that they're utilizing for that. And then what they would be offering is the sale of beer, wine, and the ready-to-drink cocktails, which are spirit-based drinks, but they're not hard liquor. It's the canned cocktails that you've seen probably some of the convenience stores selling currently. So those would all be sold primarily to go. Because they are transferring a restaurant liquor license, they are required to allow for on-premises consumption. They're certainly not going to be your sort of bar or traditional restaurant where you see a lot of people consuming on premises. They are allowed to restrict how much can be consumed on premises. So they do have a 2-drink limit for anyone who's sitting down and consuming alcohol within the store. Also, anyone who is consuming alcohol within the store has to be seated in that seating area. So they're not permitted to walk around and grocery shop with alcoholic beverage. But as I mentioned, I would say about 95% of their alcohol sales are sold for the purpose of off-premises consumption. They're only permitted to sell 192 fluid ounces of beer and 192 fluid ounces of the ready-to-drink cocktails and 3,000 milliliters of wine to go in a single transaction. So in layman's terms, that's about 2 6-packs of beer, two 6-packs of the ready-to-drink cocktails, and about 4 bottles of wine is the total transaction that they can purchase. If a customer wants to purchase more than that, they would be required to go out to their vehicle with that product, come back in and make a separate sale. Giant Eagle is very sensitive to the sale of alcohol and all of their other restricted products. Like I said, they've been doing this for over 10 years, and they have a nearly perfect record at the 59 locations where they sell. I think the reason for that is because of their carding policy. If you've purchased at any of the Giant Eagles or the Geckos, they have a 100% carding policy, which is really to protect not only the public but their associates from having to make that tough call if someone's 35 years of age or older. In addition to that, because they do sell the wine and the ready-to-drink cocktails, they do run your ID through a card scanner transaction device. So that's just a second measure to ensure that that ID is valid, as well as that they've calculated the birthday correctly. All of the associates that are going to work at the register that will be back in the area where the alcohol is displayed, they'll have gone through the RAMP seller server training. So that's a responsible alcohol management program. And they will have gone through that training before they get to that register. So anyone who's working there will have to go through that training first. And then lastly, of course, there will be security cameras that they're going to ensure are going to be focused on that product to ensure the safety of theft in that area. So with that, I know that's a lot of information. If there's any questions, happy to answer those. And of course, welcome any comments from the public. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I ask a question during the public hearing, or should I wait? Okay, perfect. I guess, ma'am, my only question is, historically, what I've seen in the area is when a grocery store gets a liquor license, they usually have hot food and a restaurant setting in the beginning, but then it tends to go away, and these seating areas become very vacant, and the hot food goes away, and now it's just a way to sell beer and alcohol. So I'm just curious, is there an investment to put hot food and additional restaurant items in this location?
That's kind of why they're strategic on where they place the seating, which is typically back in their deli areas, where they are required to have food for 30 at all times, not necessarily on the premises. It can just be within the building that houses the premises. So that seating area is to be used for the consumption of meals as well, and they certainly don't dissuade their customers from utilizing it. Now, I do know in some of their stores it's just simply not utilized as much, especially given the size and then, as you mentioned, the variety of food that they offer. But it is a legal requirement, so that wouldn't be going away.
Okay. Thanks.
So I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to visit all the places, but I'm imagining this to look like the Monroeville area or Shady Side, the Shady Side Giant Eagle, so where it is near the hot food. And people will buy their food and their drink and they can sit there. Otherwise, they're, as you say, consuming off premises.
I don't know that off the top of my head of what those two stores look like. That's not my neighborhood, Giant Eagle. But I imagine that is what it'll look like. I'd be happy to share, once the floor plan has been developed, I can share that with the municipality to show where it's going to be, where it's going to look like. I also know that when they do remodel their stores to fit alcohol, it does get sort of a facelift itself, so the entire store may be getting additional features as well as just sort of upgrades throughout the entire store, mainly because they do shift product and move things around. So as I understand it, it would be an upgrade to the store.
It's kind of like we would be getting a new restaurant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment?
So now's the time to hear from the public. This is a proposal from Giant Eagle to move a liquor license into Penn Hills to the Giant Eagle, as the attorney indicated, to sell beer, seltzers, and wine products. Let the record reflect that there is no public comment from any members of the public. And at this point, we will close the public comment portion of the public hearing and move on.
Do you want to move to council or wait?
Oh, sorry?
Do you want to move to council comments or should we
Yeah.
wait? Councilor Fascia, do you have any comments or questions?
I don't think so. I'm familiar with the Giant Eagle and I'm down on ARB in Verona. They have a liquor license. For what it's worth, the seating, by my observation, gets used more like an employee lunchroom, which I don't have an objection to, but I don't see much in the way of public use. In fact, I can't remember seeing any.
Councilman Carestas.
No additional comments. Thank you.
Councilman Waldron.
The only thing I have to say is this is
fairly standard at this point. I don't think there's really anything worrisome about it.
My understanding is if this license was not being transferred from outside of Penn Hills, it would not even come to council. So that's the only reason that it's coming before us. And I can say that it is exciting to think that no matter what level, there will be some remodeling done. That's pretty exciting to see. It's also comforting to know that there's increased security. I know that when one of my kids, when my daughter turned 21, she went to the wines and spirits store to buy a bottle of wine, and she was so disappointed that she didn't get carded. That's not going to happen at Giant Eagle. So I do feel a level of comfort knowing that there's security, that there are limits placed on there, that it brings this particular Giant Eagle, because we have more than one in Penn Hills, that it brings us into this century, that it will ideally increase traffic, foot traffic, so to speak, there. You know, it's as Councilman Waldron said, at this point, it just seems routine. Thank you so much. This will be voted on later in the, at this point, it's just the public hearing. So having said that, unless the solicitor tells me there's some reason why we shouldn't tell the court reporter that this is the end, can we dismiss the court report?
Yes, the public hearing is over. The record is closed.
Thank you so much. May I get a motion for item 7A?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman.
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 7A 2025-1, ratifying a 3-year contract to CWM Environmental, Inc. for wastewater laboratory services for a total award price of $267,711 for February 1st, 2025 to January 31st, 2028.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. I wonder if our engineer would be willing to make a comment to just explain a little about what it is that we're looking at.
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Mayor. This is a contract that's bid every 3 years. It's a mandatory laboratory testing related to the treatment plants, and it's required in the NPDES permit. So these contracts are let. In this case, the incumbent vendor, CWM, is being recommended and has been recommended for approval of this contract for award.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any public comment? Any comment from council? I would just like to say in general that certainly we all understand that we have clean water and we have the sewer system. We are truly at Penn Hills up to date with all those, not only just the requirements, but we go over and above, I think, what needs to happen. So I think this is just one more way in which we are meeting requirements, although we often exceed, but I think we're meeting the requirements. Roll call, please.
Councilman Crestus?
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese?
Yes.
Councilor Fascio?
Yes.
Councilman Waldron?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 2025-1 approved.
Thank you. May I get a motion for item 7B?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Fascio.
I'd like to make a motion for Resolution 2025-2, granting conditional use approval to the Redeemer Lutheran School for the construction of a gymnasium at 121 Dawn Drive.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comment from the public?
Thanks, thanks again, Your Honor. Greg Swatchik, 648 Graham Lane. That handout I gave you on page 16 deals with this. It's a project overview. 17 is the universal application. 18, I thought they should have also checked off the variance and not just conditional use. It's my understanding, and I'd like clarity on this at some point in a future meeting. Chris will be leaving, of course, but there's been many times since the early 90s that I've seen him use the de minimis theory, where something's negligible, insignificant, irrelevant because it's a tiny infraction on the letter and spirit of our zoning ordinance as written. When things go to the zoning hearing board, we have an excellent chair. She's a retired criminal court judge. She follows the law to the letter, and she lets people down easy and says, hey, I'd love to help you, but the law restricts me from doing so. And she's very good at explaining that. But if it doesn't get to the zoning hearing board, and Chris, I don't want to say abuses, because he doesn't abuse. He makes his professional judgment to go ahead and say that it's de minimis, and under his signature, it doesn't have to go to that zoning hearing board. With a billboard sign, he used the word, he didn't want to burden the zoning hearing board. And then you changed the ordinance itself to permit another billboard within what was a restricted distance prior to. So I think he knew that if it went to the zoning hearing board, they would deny it. So he came to you, you changed the law.
What does this public comment have to do with this line
Well,
item?
well, what it has to do with is I see this happening again. I'm just giving an
Okay,
example.
can you focus on the resolution?
Okay, the resolution is that 100 foot was the requirement for the clearance from the nearest property line in the back to the building. That went before the Planning Commission and it was approved. And Chris, I guess, deemed it not necessary to go to the zoning hearing board. If it was a 100-foot requirement and they only had 99 or 95, I can see de minimis applying. But when they go and cut it in half, and it's 51 feet versus 100, there was a guy here that wanted to speak at the, I forget the zone, last meeting, and you tabled this. So he was in a huff and a puff. He couldn't say anything. So what I just want to say is, this one's probably going to go through. But I would say in the future, just like you tell people up front before the zoning hearing board meeting, you tell the people, if you don't like our decision, you get to take it to common pleas court, and they fill out a little thing as having standing. I just ask, one last sentence, I just ask a same token arrangement for the Planning Commission, where not a piece of paper is used, but you say to the person objecting, if you want to go to the zoning hearing board, you can. Just let them know they can go as recourse.
You've exceeded to 3 minutes at this point.
Okay, they don't know they can appeal to the zoning hearing board. That's my point.
Any local agency decision can be appealed.
Mr. Blackwell, since you were mentioned, would you like to address it?
Yes, sure. I'm very proud of my decision, by the way. I would like to say that this is a conditional use application. And what you're really seeking here is you're asking, we've done this before with conditional uses, where what we're really discussing is, do you believe that this use can occur here? Right? And then if you look at the conditional uses for churches, schools, there's setbacks. And under the conditions of schools and the setbacks, it's very clear that the mayor and council has the authority to increase conditions or waive conditions, decrease these setbacks. And in fact, there's a process for that. And in fact, you submit with their application, Redeemer Lutheran Church submitted you're asking for a modification of the ordinance. And they've done that, and it's in your packet. And so I think that it's very clear that you can make that decision. And also, I want to say that Mr. Swachik looks at things very finite and very acute. He has a very strict understanding of the ordinance. As the planning director, I look at it as a whole. I look at the entire document and what we're really trying to do. So in November, The residents called, they were concerned, they spoke with Meg Balsabico, my coworker, and they came to the planning commission meeting. And it was discussed, this setback at a conditional use hearing was discussed at great length. So, and then Mr. Swachik mentioned somebody being disgruntled leaving. To my recollection, there was nobody here.
They requested it.
They requested it to be tabled. Right. And there was actually no one here. The request to be tabled came at 3:30 right before the meeting, so we had no time to notify residents, and they weren't here because it was clearly fully discussed at a public hearing. After this, I would assume approval. We hope that you would. This goes back to the Planning Commission for site plan, stormwater, on the 27th of this month. It'll be next week. So again, that will be fully discussed. So sometimes when developers come to Penn Hills, you know, I can't give them 50% off. I can't give that, but I can assist them through a process that I think it would be redundant. It makes no sense for you to approve a conditional use with a setback approval and then take them to a lower board to hash it out again. It really makes no sense. And I think Mr. Swachik would even understand that. You are the highest board in the town. Why would you remand it back to the zoning hearing board? So I think in this case, there's no need for that additional discussion on the same subject. But either way, you have clearly in the ordinance the purview that you can make this decision. And I hope that you will.
I just want to step out for a moment and let the court reporter know you're free to leave. You don't need to transcribe any more of
No,
this.
she's actually here for this case.
You
Yeah.
want the,
Yeah,
for
conditional
another one.
use also goes before, has
okay.
a transcript. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
So okay, in addition to the video, you're going to need her. Okay, very good. Thank you. Any further public comment?
Good evening. I'm Martha Freck. I am the engineer for the Redeemer Lutheran School. I prepared the modification for the conditional use. I also prepared the site development plan, which is in your hands at this time, or in the Penn Hills hands. And I just wanted to speak on the behalf of the school. I'm hoping a decision has been made in your minds to go forward with this, but just to confirm your decision is that we have a 5-acre parcel there, and we have a church, we have a rectory, we have parking lot. There's also another school that the Redeemer School has, which is it's the elementary school up above on Idaho. They're growing. Parents and families want the education in this school. And for the high schoolers, they need a gym that they can say and be proud of and do their sports and compete in their sports. And me, being the engineer, I know that that area is tight. And we try to best fit a gym that would be within the ordinance as best we could. And we pretty much meet all the other locations except for the one corner at 51 feet. The reason why it was tabled last month was because we had a situation where we had a slightly smaller design gym, and money's pouring forth in support of this project. And at the last minute, this administration of the school said, can we put one more bleacher in to make this more of an official school, an official competing competition gym? And so I didn't want to go in front of you stating a project that we already know is going to be changed. And that's why it was canceled at the last minute. So yes, we did originally ask for 52 feet with an additional bleacher. It makes it 51 because we pushed it back towards the church, and we have a way of being able to handle that. And we are very cognizant of the adjacent landowners, and we're trying to keep our lighting down. We're trying to design things. We're trying to design our vent systems in an area that is not going to be noisy for the adjacent landowners. And we're trying to be cognizant of everyone who may have a concern. And I just want to let you know that we are being proactive at trying to get this to be a better school system and a competitive gym for this high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Hello. Steve Zellahay, 2812 Ryder Road. I just want to say that I grew up at that church. Sad to say that St. George's had fallen off and it was empty for a while. My girls went to Lutheran for a little bit. I think it's a great school. I think with the space that they have in the parking lot, it's a great opportunity to build something that, especially because they don't have a sports program. That's probably one of the reasons why we didn't go there again, because our kids, we want them in sports. So I think it's a great idea of the use of the land. I would just say that, just worry about some of the more parking features. But yeah, I think it's a great use of the spot. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Any comment from council? Councilor Fascio?
No, I only to say that I have more than a couple neighbors and friends who've used the school and had a similar situation as their children got older and wanted to get more involved in organized sports at a competitive level, left that school. So this clearly seems to be a good investment for them and for the community. Everything I've heard, they're a great school.
Thank you. Councilman Waldron, any comment? I'm sorry.
No comment.
You can tell I'm having a rough night. Councilman Waldron.
No comments.
Penn Hills is as we've already said, we say it over and over, the municipality is a separate entity from the school district. However, we are the largest suburb outside of Pittsburgh. We've got close to 30 neighborhoods. At the last census, it showed that half of the kids who live in Penn Hills don't attend our district. Our district is thriving. They're turning things around. Things are really looking up in our district. However, for whatever reason, people want options. They want choices. And the reality is, in our society, back in the old days when we had newspapers, there was the science page in the sports section. Sports offers so much to children. It's just so important. For young girls, it's a way that we see adolescent girls are comfortable with their bodies, are comfortable competing. For young boys, maybe they can't compete at the WPO level. Whatever it is, it's really this is something that families want. They want to have this improvement. And I think that although the school is not directly related to the municipality, that's what we are here. We are, as we say 1,000 times, we are a bedroom community. Our base is we need to fill every home. And this is just another attractive option for families to come into Penn Hills. So I certainly will be voting yes for this as we move when it comes up for the vote. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilman Crestus?
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese?
Yes.
Councilor Fascio?
Yes.
Councilman Waldron?
Yes.
Resolution 2 approved.
Making a motion for item 7C.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Carestas.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 7C, Resolution 2025-3, approving an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with Wilkins Township for the subdivision and land development of property on Rhode Island Road.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comment from the public? Any comment from council? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
My name is Lucy Tuttle Smith, 652 Gramac Lane. Thank you. I was not aware of this resolution until the other day. There was no zoning notice, because I understand that this will be a change of zoning according to the Wilkinsburg zoning map. And Mayor, I want to mention, you're right, we need to do things to protect and encourage people to move into Penn Hills. And for those in the audience that don't know, this area, especially the 11.5-acre plot on top of the hill, is R1A in Penn Hills. That's the highest designation of low impact housing that we have. And if we can't protect our investments in our home with our zoning, then why would people want to come? Why would people want to build here? I bought my parents' house 30 years ago because I knew that we were protected by the zoning and had the support. What happens when Wilkins builds something in this area? It's not light industrial, could be industrial. They could put a drill for oil up there. And what do we have to say as citizens to object? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blackwell, do you want to address that?
Sure. The municipality's planning code, oftentimes when you have properties that split a municipal boundary, such as in this case, actually, we've done this before with other communities, with Plum and Wilkins Township as well. And when properties span a boundary, as in this case, the municipality's planning code has it allows for one municipality to be subordinate and the other one to be the controlling municipality. So what happens is that any activity on the existing building where the school is intending to purchase the building, or a subdivision to separate that large parcel into two pieces at, say, the borderline, would not, it makes sense that they would go to one board, one community. Their zoning hearing board is as good as ours, and our planning commission, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's unreasonable to make them go to two different boards in two different communities for the same thing. Now, if they expand things for this existing building, there's a parking lot that expands into Penn Hills. If they were to pave that, things like that, it would go to Wilkins Township.
Chris, could I just ask this question, but maybe it's a timely question, but the majority of that property lies within Wilkins. It's only about a half acre that's in Penn Hills.
It's actually a majority's in Penn Hills, actually. The majority's in Penn Hills. Only the building, basically the surroundings of the building are in 5 acres is in Penn Hills, and the other portion is 11 acres or whatever is in.
It's 5 acres in Penn Hills?
Yeah, it's a smaller amount. It might even, I'm sorry if I don't know the exact numbers, but the larger portion is in Penn Hills. However, if they were going to build a zoning, build a building, change the zoning, it comes to you. What we're talking about is activity on the line would go to Wilkins Township.
It makes sense that we make it more expedient for people to. Right. However, if something does go to Wilkins, do residents of Penn Hills have standing in the Wilkins consideration? No,
they would go to the Wilkins Planning Commission and Council and Zoning Hearing Board. Whether they have standing, that's a good question. Where we often don't. If you live in Wilkins and come to Zoning Hearing Board in Penn Hills, you don't have standing. I'm not saying I don't believe that you would have standing regardless of this agreement. If you don't live in that town, you don't have standing. What we're really saying here is that if they want to, there's a basketball court that's located in Penn Hills. Mm-hmm. If they want to repave that basketball court, should they come to us for, a permission to pave it or things like that? No, I don't think so. But really what triggered this was a subdivision. What they'd like to do initially was to subdivide so that the Penn Hills portion is totally within Penn Hills on one lot, and the Wilkins portion is on one lot in Penn Hills. That was the original intent. So that's why we were staying, it was clear that we were staying out of it. Now, the resolution that we passed also has development, because, and actually a subdivision is a form of development, but it's development, but it's not to build a new building or build accessory structures, things like that. It's really just for the resolution is really for, they're planning to do a subdivision. As we know, things change sometimes. They may buy the whole property. But if the owners of the property wanted to come to Penn Hills, to the Penn Hills portion and build something, it would most definitely come to Penn Hills. That's
Okay,
clear.
so that doesn't,
Right. Or they want to do a zoning change, it comes to Penn Hills. It's if a portion of that, you know, the one example that we passed before was that there was in Edgemont, in Eastmont, they
Yeah.
were building a dozen homes. And the rear yards of those properties went into Penn Hills.
right.
Penn Hills Council, Penn Hills Planning Commission, Zoning Hearing Board really didn't need to take action on the last 10 feet of someone's backyard. And I don't think that the applicant really should have to pay the fees, go through all the process of all those things. What if Penn Hills were to turn down something in the backyard of a property that they had absolutely no other say in, right? So I think in this case, it's certainly a more contentious part of the boundary. It has some history, but I think that, you know, to me, it seems like if activity takes place on that, right now, it's one huge property. So if something takes place on that Wilkins Township portion, it would not come to you, and you're welcome, right? Yeah, you won't see, though, that activity. It would be in Wilkins. And I know the folks in Wilkins, Rebecca Vargo, they have a lot of knowledge, and they'll handle it appropriately. And we've even asked that, like, and it's shown, like, on their subdivision, it shows that zoning. There's a R1A zoning, there's C conservation zoning in Penn Hills. That remains. That will never be changed. It's not, you know, unless you all choose to, but that remains the same. That's not affected.
So essentially, this is not like, oh, we're going to have some big development here. What we're saying is for the convenience of the people that are already incoming for these, they have to come to one entity instead of two.
That's correct. On the existing property.
Right.
Like on the existing, something that has to do with that existing building. If they want to put new lighting up, or if they want to, it goes to Wilkins Township. And I believe that the Wilkins Township officials would take the same precautions for lighting and neighbors as we would.
Okay, thank you. Any further public comment?
Thanks again, Mayor. Greg Swachik, 648. If you could refer to 648 Gramick Lane, if you could refer to the second handout I gave you, I'd like that to be submitted for the record in case it's needed in a court of law down the road. I would seriously encourage you to table this and look into it. I can't get all this in 3 minutes with words here at the microphone, but the 4-page letter that I submitted to you shows the historical activity over time. It shows what my concerns are. It addresses some of the questions you asked Chris in a more comprehensive, total way. And it also addresses questions you wouldn't even know to ask. You need to seriously consider this deeply and understand it before you make a vote tonight. If you look at the attachment, the first one, it's a settlement agreement that was created by Judge James. It turns out we were going to have a memorial for him tonight. It was on the original agenda.
Different James.
Oh, it's a different James? Okay, I stand corrected. Thank you for that. But President Judge James was the one that presided over this settlement agreement. It was a major thing. Penn Hills and Wilkins spent over $250,000 combined on their solicitors. I spent $20,000 and got $18,000 back from people I didn't even know. Raphael Velez, through the Chatlin Corporation, bought 38 acres on Gray Mac. He built $1 million home. There's another home adjacent to this on the market for $700,000 or $800,000. Denovi's old home's $800,000 or $900,000, all abutting this. There's a settlement agreement that has all kind of particulars, and I appreciate the fact the manager, the solicitor, and the mayor have law degrees. I would seriously fine-tooth comb that and table this at a minimum this evening. The last part of the attachment is all the Wilkins correspondence that you can see. It's really a being finagled here. If you don't know what you're looking at and with the sequencing over time, you're going to get us in a point where we can't, it's going to be difficult to return, litigation's going to resume, we're all going to spend a lot more money. So if you ask questions about a plot plan, if you look at the last plot plan where it's PVE on one side and the plot plan on the other, that shows the land. There's 10 acres of virgin woods in Penn Hills. And this is like the tail wagging the dog. This is like one hair on the tail wagging the dog. It's backwards. They are a very small percentage. If you look at this, dark and light above, the boundary is the dark light. Everything up to the top, they failed to put R1A here for the zoning. I wrote it down. They show a tip of the Graymack properties that are $800,000, $900,000 houses and never...
You can conclude.
Okay. There's no way to conclude except I'm submitting all this for the record. I would just encourage you, and the last portion is the what they're talking about, the inter-office government.
The time has expired, but
Thank
it
you,
is
Mr.
all on the
Swatcher.
record.
Okay, we don't have a joint zoning hearing board. We don't have a joint planning commission. It's punting the ball. And Judge James would not appreciate this. Read the settlement agreement. It's very important. The reason I can't talk about it is it says in the settlement agreement, if they do their part, I can't object in a meeting. We changed the zoning predicated upon them doing their part. You
Mr.
changed
Swatchick,
the
if
zoning.
this does get approved, do you understand the rules of appeal, and you have 30 days to appeal?
Yes, but all I'm saying is we allowed you to change the zoning to mixed and conservancy. If you say we're going to run by Wilkins rules, they could change it and say we're allowed to build a parking lot in a conservancy zone because we have a school. It's going to eviscerate. Please, don't jump to conclusions and vote tonight if you're not comfortable. I would just ask 3 of you that. Thank you.
Any further public comment? Mr. Blackwell, I saw you shaking your head over there. Would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, it doesn't change the zoning in Penn Hills, and it doesn't change the uses, and it doesn't change your control over those uses. But I would say that if they were going to make a walking trail that was associated with the school, I'll stretch out to say that I think it's reasonable that they not come to, they not have to ask to come to have children walk through the woods on that land. But as of right now, I'm not even, it doesn't change the zoning, it doesn't change the use, it doesn't change any part of it. It's more separating it so they can do things. It's one huge property right now. So they're going to subdivide it at the line. That was the plan. So it just it allows them to subdivide it and use that side of the property without our say. So as it is right now, it's one huge property. If they do something on that property, you might say, well, Penn Hills weighs in on it. So all we're really trying to say is that Wilkins can manage that property without Penn Hills influence. If you don't believe that's the case, or you feel that you need that, then you could recommend denial. But I think it's reasonable that they wouldn't, if someone's doing something in Wilkins Township, they wouldn't have to come to our planning commission for approval, something like that, or council. But it's certainly all the things that Mrs. Tuttle-Smith spoke about and Mr. Swatchick spoke about, it doesn't change that.
So you don't have the concerns?
No, I have no concerns. I recommended it. I don't know if that, but when sometimes we did this with Plum, they're building 158 houses in Plum, and it stops at the line. It makes no sense for us to weigh in on the houses that are in Plum. And it's the same thing with the Eastmont. It makes no sense. And I think in this case, it's the same. If they're going to do work in in Wilkins Township, then it's, but if they come to Penn Hills, they got to get a building permit. They've got to get zoning amendments, things like that. It doesn't give Wilkins power to do that.
So as the Director of Planning, in your professional opinion, you're recommending that we pass this?
Yeah, I think it's in cooperation with good neighbors. I think some of what we're talking about tonight is intergovernmental relations. I know Scott and Rebecca have a great relationship, and we work together on these projects, and I think it's appropriate, yes.
Thank you. Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Counselor Fascio,
Yes.
Councilman Waldron,
Yes.
Councilman Crestus.
Yes.
Item 7C approved.
May I get a motion for item 7D?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Waldron.
I make a motion to approve item 7D, Resolution 2025-4, approving the transfer of restaurant liquor license R-8152 by Giant Eagle, Inc. into the municipality of Penn Hills.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comment from the public? Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Counselor Fascio,
Yes.
Councilman Waldron,
Yes.
Councilman Crestus,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes.
Item 7D approved.
Thank you. May I get a motion for item 7E?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilwoman Fascio.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Resolution 2025-5, authorizing an application to the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, DCNR, for Duff Road Park improvements. Total project is $1,237,512, with $681,756 local match.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comment from the public? Any comment from council?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Waldron.
I'd just like to elaborate here that this is a project that will improve the municipal building, the land around the municipal building in Duff Park. When I first heard about it, it was relayed to me that Penn Hills is getting pickleball courts, and that's not exactly exciting to me. But whenever you look at the full plan, the full plan includes 2 pickleball courts, a tennis court, and a complete overhaul of the skate park. I know the skate park is one of the most used features around the municipal building here. And it's a great feature that we have here. And I know the people that use the skate park have been asking for quite a while for updates and maintenance on the park. So I'm really excited to be able to deliver that to them.
Yeah.
Just quickly say I'm always happy to see us utilizing our tax dollars as well as we can with matching opportunities.
Thank you. Penn Hills has over 10 parks and multiple neighborhood playgrounds. These are the sorts of things that make it attractive for people to move here. And I can tell you that, I'll be honest with you, I have no idea why pickleball is called pickleball, but it's becoming rapidly.
Big.
It's big, and we have to get in on that. And I know that when my kids were little, they used the skate park, and I can tell you that we are not an island, and Senator Costa often tells me that when he goes to other parts of the county, and I can vouch for this too, because I hear it, the skate park actually makes Penn Hills a destination. That's one of the few, somebody's in the audience going, yep, that's one of the few things throughout the county that brings people into Penn Hills. And then when they come here, they say, oh, wow, we had no idea that this is what it's like. So I'm very excited to see this. And I think it's really poetic that on one of our directors, well, it's the last meeting, I know that this was something near and dear to your heart. And I thank you so much for spearheading this. And if there's anything you would like to say, please feel free.
I hope that you approve this tonight, because I submitted it about 6:45 before the meeting. So with the confidence that you would recommend a $1.2 million grant with a 50-50 match. But I want to point out to Sean and Alan, last year at this meeting, you recommended approval of a $2 million grant for the Milltown section of the Vaught
Right.
Trail, and we got it.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we got another $1 million from RAD and $80,000 from GTRP. So I think it's important to note that, like, with it takes staff, but it also takes confidence of mayor and council. I remember looking at you and saying, I will get more money. So I say that again with this grant. And so I actually submitted it at like 6:30 or something like that. So I hope that you'll approve it.
And you know, that's why we get these grants also, because other entities know that Penn Hills can handle that kind of money. And that has a lot to do with you and your department.
Thank you very
Thank
much. And there's a lot of players involved in finance department. You know, everybody, you know, they work together to put these things together. And you are correct. We have the capacity and the staff to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilman Waldron,
Yes.
Councilman Crestus,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilor Fascio.
Yes.
7E approved.
May I get a motion for item 7F?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Crestus.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 7F, Resolution 2025-6, authorizing the submission of recycling program grant application to Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection for the purchase of leaf waste recycling trucks.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comment from the public? Any comment from council?
So that one quick question, Mayor. How many trucks are we looking to purchase with this particular grant?
One dump truck.
One.
Yes,
One.
it's one truck, and it's a wood chipper
Wood
to improve the recycling program. One of the beauties of this grant is it's the truck.
it's not
We already
that we-
purchased the truck, so this is what this grant allows you to do is get reimbursed for money that you've already spent. So it's a win. I don't know what you call it, a win-win-win, because we've already spent the money. And we've been very successful with this grant in the past. And last year we purchased a dump truck, a front loader, and a backhoe. And so then again, this year now we're looking for a dump truck and a wood chipper. And the Department of Public Works, they need a new truck just about every year. So we try to we try to figure out ways to leverage funding and make these things happen.
Nice. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Crestus,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilor Fascio.
Yes.
Councilman Waldron.
Yes.
Item 7F approved.
Mayor, before you move on to the next one, I just want to clarify that we are not amending the rules and regulations. We're actually adopting updated rules and regulations. So if we can word the motion that way, adopting updated.
So we're going to change the word amending to adopting, updating.
Adopting the updated police personnel board rules and regulations.
May I get a motion for item 8?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Crestus.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 8A, ordinance 2705-2025, adopting the updated police personnel board rules and regulations.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comment from the public?
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Greg Swatchik, 648 Gramick Lane. I guess under the rules and regulations are understandings of training for our patrol officers. And I don't know if this has anything to do with that, but if you look at the last page of my first handout, you'll see the specific no trespassing, trespass by vehicle. I've encountered some of the police that weren't aware of this law, and they say, well, it's on Google. But the manager that I ran into in Giant Eagle wrote a letter to me, CC'd it to you, complaining on his off time that I was approaching
I
him.
feel like this is really tangentially related to the item.
Well,
at this point.
as I prefaced, Mr. Manager, with all due respect,
Training, I know.
I didn't know
It's not-
when you say rules and regulations, I would think that somewhere encompassing rules and regulations, that the police are being regulated by some understanding that comes from the chief, and the rules come from the PA state law on vehicular trespass. So I would like him to...
That's not correct, Mr. Swatchik. What these rules and regulations refer to are the hiring processes for entry-level police officers and promotional examinations. They have nothing to do with private roads and
Okay, well, I
how
would-
the police officers' conduct is regulated internally. Those are policies. These are civil service regulations, rules and regulations pertaining to how entry-level police officers are hired and how promotional examinations are conducted.
Okay, in terms of the promotional examinations, is there anything dealing with periodic training?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any further public comment? Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Crestus,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilor Fascio,
Yes.
Councilman Waldron.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2705-2025 approved. Next on the agenda is a new feature. You might have to, are you able to put the screen up, Vince? Or is that something that I have to do? Okay. Well, next is a new feature. A few months ago, the council requested that there be a report from my office every month pertaining to items of public interest and things that are affecting the municipality on a daily basis, current projects we're engaged in, and also to give you a little update and some heads up on some things you might be seeing. It's been a busy month for us, as you can imagine, so the format for this may change depending on what the council wants me to do. I am going to try to get through as much as I can, as quickly as I can, and cover what is actually a lot of information here. And so for those of you that have participated in our budget processes and so forth, some of this might be information you've seen before, but just to give you a broad overview of some things that we're working on right now in my office, one of the things that we did late last year was we moved and we've enhanced our risk management program. So we're in the process of reviewing a lot of our insurance policies. We have a meeting coming up with our fire departments. And the purpose of this is to make sure that we have the right insurances in place. It's not a cost-saving measure necessarily, but in selecting a new risk manager, we found some gaps in coverage and some other things. So we're continuing to work on that. Also, upcoming every year, not every year I shouldn't say, but periodically Penn Hills has to shop around for its energy suppliers, and there's a whole lot of complicated information to go with procuring that. We have right now natural gas rates that we're locked into that are pretty good through 2028, but in October our electricity supplier, our contract there is going to end, so we're going to be in the very beginning of a process to select another electric provider, and the purpose of that is so that we get brokered rates and we're locked into competitive rates for the municipality. Also, something else along the same lines we saw earlier pertaining to civil service rules and trying to update things. Our solicitor and I and our HR director and assistant manager, we're going to be working on it, updating our mandatory retirement age for police officers. Right now, I believe it's 60, if I'm not mistaken, but we're looking at that because we have some officers that are coming up against that. The municipality has a say-so in what the mandatory retirement age for police officers is. So there's going to be some more information coming on that soon, but it's all in an effort to update what's happening as we go. Very quickly, last year, if you followed along with our budget, we were expecting to probably take probably about $1 million reduction to the fund balance. There was a lot of discussion about that in the budget process to try to call some attention to that finally. And it ended up, I just spoke with our finance director today about it. We actually ended up last year a little better than we had expected to be. So it's unaudited. Our audit isn't completed until later this year, but at least it looks preliminarily that we might actually post a surplus for last year, and there's a lot of reasons for that. The biggest of which is that our earned income tax came in a little bit stronger in 2024 than we had expected. We were a little conservative on the estimate. So it appears that at least at the end of 24, we might actually post a surplus. There's a lot of open positions in the budget as well that's leading to that. So I don't want to give you the expectation that it's scalable or repeatable, but at least our finances last year ended up on a high note. We also have a little bit of extra money now council adjusted the millage to help pay for some of the refuse costs and some of the things we were talking about in the fall. So all of that ties together with where we're trying to get to in retiring our debt in 2028. We're confident that we're going to be able to get to 2028 without any drastic changes. Hopefully, we don't have to make any big adjustments. But this news that we got at the end of last year, on top of some additional revenue that we got, that we're getting from the residents, which we're very thankful for, hopefully we're going to be able to put some better plans together this year and sort of program how we want to arrive at our destination, which we do have. We do have a destination in 2028. So we do have a milepost, and we have some financial goals that we're setting. Along with that is the development of a fund balance policy. We talked about that in the fall, that we should have a fund balance policy, which we're looking at that now. There's some templates through the GFOA, but again, it's between now and the budget process that unfolds later in the year. I think that the mayor and council and the staff will have something developed that makes sense for Penn Hill. Certainly, we don't want to go back to where we came from. We've already seen that in some of the earlier meetings. So that's something that's on the hopper, I think, as the saying goes, right? That's something that we're going to be working on internally and be bringing forward. Just some statistics, just some numbers from January. There was an interest in what the call volume is. We had about 1,000 calls to EMS in January. 800 of them we responded to, and about 200 were mutual aid that 911 referred to some of our neighbors. There's that regionalization cooperation piece that we talked about earlier. The police department responded to 1,500 calls in January. It's a lot of calls, and then when you consider that for every one of those calls, there's a report, there's a follow-up, there's potentially an investigation. So it's much bigger, I think, than what it appears, in the sense that there's a lot of support and there's a lot of things that go with that. As you imagine, 1,000 EMS calls, there's a whole lot that goes with it besides just the call. That's happening all the time. That's what that's the majority of what we do here is public safety. So that's ongoing. In the meantime, we're very close to turning the key finally on a 12-hour scheduling system in the police department. We're moving from what's called the Pittman schedule to a 12-hour schedule. That's been a really big object. It's taken a long time to move it forward. We were able to get the mayor and the council and the police union to get an agreement on that. It was overwhelmingly approved by the police union last year, and it was unanimously approved by the council. That's going to be a big change in how we do recruitment. You know, as part of trying to update the civil service rules, we're also trying to update the schedule to make recruitment better. Recruitment challenges, it's on there. That's a continual challenge for our EMS department. It's a continual challenge for our police department. You know, we are fully staffed. Thankfully, we have full staffing. We were able to add police using the American Rescue Funds that we were fortunate enough to get. That's actually helping to lower overtime a little bit. That helps the budget. You know, why did we end up posting a surplus when I thought we were going to maybe have a deficit? I was pretty close when you look at it as a percentage of the whole budget, but playing into that is the fact that we actually took some savings on the police overtime last year, so that helps and plays into moving things in a better financial direction last year. And so, as I said, it's not audited. 24 is not audited yet. But when the audit's complete, we're confident it's going to show a surplus. However, you know, that might not be repeatable. There was a lot of open positions in 2024. There was a lot of things that we may not have in 25. So even though we might have posted a surplus in 24, you know, it's with all of the other costs that we discussed in the budget hearings that I presented, I'm fairly certain that with a lot of other things that are happening, any extra revenue we have is probably going to be absorbed just by our program. Nothing new, just our program of work, just what's in the budget, just the inflation is probably going to end up absorbing a lot of that. Also, we were fortunate to get 1.5 ambulances. Is it, ambulances is the plural to ambulance. But our state representative procured state funding for us to, I think it was to the tune of about $700,000, if I'm not mistaken. And that pays for almost 2 ambulances. So that grant is being finalized. The paperwork on that is being done. We're still waiting on another delivery. That's the whole supply chain problem that we know about. There's a lot of reasons for that. It really has to do not so much with anything that we have any control over. A lot of it has to do with just the fact that there's a long delivery line for that equipment. Moving on and trying to be as brief as possible, just to be respectful of everyone's time. If you look at our DPW, obviously the winter weather has been a real challenge for us in January. It was a really difficult month for us. I think it was a difficult month for everyone. We've talked about it before. Our salt supply was really getting low. As Scott Shepard told me, he felt it was dangerously low at one point. It has really nothing to do with us. It had a lot to do with the fact that the people that deliver the salt just weren't delivering it in a timely manner, and that I think the demand was exceeding maybe the ability to supply at that point. But we were able to emerge from that relatively unscathed. We didn't actually run out of salt, as the mayor made clear at the last meeting, although for a place that hasn't had a real bad winter in a while, it was a little bit dicey there for a minute. But we are caught up, although even like this morning, we had applications that we weren't really expecting. So we're getting the deliveries back, but it's been a little bit of a challenge. Next, again, we're dealing with this all the time, which is the need to recruit and retain certified wastewater operators. It's a big challenge. We've had this discussion here in this room and other forums. It's an industry-wide challenge. We're exploring all kinds of ways to maybe alleviate that through different recruitment strategies, different mentoring strategies. But the challenge is to recruit someone into the organization to work at the wastewater treatment end of things and then stay long enough, which is actually 3 years, to stay 3 years in order to take the certified operators exam, which isn't very easy to pass, as I understand it. So that's a real challenge to recruit young people perhaps into that field. It's become more difficult, and so our director is constantly looking at that. I'm looking at that, but we have some conversations ongoing. We think we have some answers for that. We're working currently. We had some conversations today about our next small water and sewer grant that's going to be opened up at the end of April. That's coming up, which leads into our planning department and a lot of the things that happen there. Just on the left side, it might be too small to see, but that's a list of grants that are available. Some of the deadlines. These are just deadlines in April, as you can look through this. We have our biggest grant that we've been fortunate enough to get the last few years is the multimodal grant. That's what's been funding a lot of infrastructure projects. I think it's a 20% match, but it's basically free money. We were able to get, I think, in excess of about $6 million from Senator Costa, and with Joe McAndrew's support, I think, on the last one. But that application's due in on the 21st. It's an application we've done before. I'm not only am I confident we're going to get the application in, I have a feeling we might get funded because we weren't funded the last go around. So that's one thing that's happening. But there's a lot of work that goes with that. As Chris had mentioned, it all takes, I don't want to say it takes a village, because I guess that's worn out language, but it really does take a depth of staff to be able to bring these applications to the fore. But as I said, and it's actually too small for me even to read it. Maybe you can up there, but I mean, there's an example of just applications that are due in March and April that we have to get geared up for, that our planning office works on. So again, We've also we've identified Chris's replacement. She's here tonight, Meg Balsamico. You may know her. She's been the assistant director. So we do have continuity, but as we alluded to, we're having to evaluate and replace key personnel. We're losing. Well, we're not totally losing access to all the advice, but on a daily basis, we've had people here that have really steered the ship and kept things in the right direction to make sure that we meet deadlines. And there's a lot of institutional knowledge that goes with it. But I'm confident that we have some people coming on board. We're identifying new people that I think are going to be good additions to the workforce. I think they're going to add a lot of value to the department, and I'm confident that under Meg's leadership, we're going to continue to do that. And again, that last sentence, management of ongoing grants and processes, that's a lot that goes with that. There's a lot of work in not only getting the applications to the forefront, but also to manage them on a regular basis. There's reporting requirements that go with it, and so forth. Also, it doesn't often get enough attention, but we do have an internal IT department. They do a fantastic job for 2 people. There's 2 full-time IT staff that are responsible for quite a bit of hardware and what I'll say is an ever-growing universe of complications, including cyber terrorism and cloud-based systems and all sorts of things that may exceed, I think, in some regard, some layperson's understanding of how these systems work. But right now, we're in the process of, and part of it is looking at our risk management, because we did have a cyber event a few years ago that we were, fortunately wasn't a data breach. It fortunately didn't cause a lot of damage, but after that event, it's caused us a lot, like a lot of other agencies, to look closer at how we're protecting the municipality. So in cooperation with Travelers Insurance, who carries our cyber insurance policy, we're also, Jesse is working towards a few things at the moment, one of which is the ability to have multi-factor authentication. What does that mean? It means that if you access one of our systems remotely, maybe through your phone or if you're working here, that you identify yourself in a way other than just your login. It might be a token, which is a physical object as I understand it. It could be facial recognition, and that's basically becoming standardized. I think that's becoming more and more. We're also working on implementing remote monitoring and management. What does that mean? Well, currently we have some ability for IT to log in to your PC at home, or vice versa, that you could use a remote device to access our system, but there's some limitations on that. I guess our IT department doesn't have full ability to go on to someone's desktop that's working here to troubleshoot them. So hopefully under this new module, we have a little bit more flexibility with that. Also tied to it is the ongoing discussion we've had. I think it was last month we talked about better marketing strategies and better ways to reach people. A lot of that ties into the information technology piece, whatever it happens to be. So those are just a few things that are happening right now, and not to leave out the remote sites that we have. And there's actually a lot that's not covered on here. As you know, we have community centers, we have a recreation program that's tied to public works that, I think you're going to find, unsurprisingly, that it's more busy in the spring and the summer than it is in the winter, although they do some winter activities too. I don't want anybody to feel left out. It's just, I'm trying to give sort of as broad of an overview as to some things that are happening right now, rather than looking backwards at 24, because as we know, we're looking at the bottom line in some regard. We're looking at how we ended up, and right now it looks like we ended up fairly well for 24. But I digress. Right now, there's a grant application that's due in October that the library is working towards developing. It's the Keystone Grant. It's a 50-50 match, and it's a $750,000 grant. So ostensibly, if we were awarded the $750,000, the municipality would have to come up with $750,000 as well. And that money, to access that money, you really have to work early at it, which we're doing now. The librarian is involved with it. I just met with an architect recently. So the theory behind that money is that if we are awarded, and we have no way to know whether we would be or not, we really don't know, but if the money was awarded, it would be bigger dollars really for major alterations and improvements, such as perhaps better lighting. A lot of it has to come from the design of an architect, but in the first place, you have to get the application geared up and ginned up to send in, and that's one of the critical things that we've always had access to, is a strong internal piece to do that. Also, the appointment of a new assistant director at the senior center to give them additional support that they need. So that's something that's happening here as well. And I just wanted to harken back to the code enforcement arm that we're only as good as the people that we have, and we in some cases people have left. Some people have, through natural attrition, they retire. So it's a natural part of any agency or organization that you have to do recruitment. But in the case of code enforcement, I think some folks would agree that in the last few years we've added staff to the department. We've updated the software, although I know it may be imperfect, at least for some of the internal people that use it. But we've added quite a bit to the department, but we've lost some people. We had a retirement, so we are always recruiting. You can look on our website. Recruitment is a challenge, and it's going to continue to be for a lot of sectors, given unemployment and some things that are happening. But we're confident that even though we are having to replace a lot of key people, I'm confident that we're going to, in the next few weeks and in coming months, I think we're going to identify a lot of talented people that could hopefully add some value to what we're already doing, which is, I think, which is a pretty ambitious program. So that's sort of what I have as a broad overview. I'd be happy to entertain any comments, and if you went to flesh any of these items out, we can have further discussion. But my point, and again, there wasn't a whole lot of template. I did not have a whole lot of time to prepare this, and so I would just keep in mind that it may change. This may not be the format for the report. It may change depending on time. It may change depending on what the council's interested in it. But my point this evening was to sort of just give you an overview on some of the things that are happening on a daily basis that you may see as we go further in the year, so that you're not surprised about any of this. Oh, and then the other thing that I did want to point out, and I just found this out today, I think it's important, is we are going to be deploying soon the towable speed calming device that you may see in other communities. It tells you to slow down. It tells you how fast you're going. That's something, and that's budgeted for. I think it's about $20,000 or $25,000 is what that is. So that's part of our efforts to try to do some traffic calming. And in addition, we're looking at we're working with our tower because we have a lot of abandoned vehicles, and so right now we're trying to catch up on that too. They're trying to catch up on it. We're trying to catch up on it as well. So so there's some things that I think on that are going to be coming soon as well. Okay.
Thank you so much.
So I know that's a lot at once, but the timing, are we going to wait?
No, it's a couple minutes.
Oh, okay.
But it's all good stuff, so thank you very much. Now we move to council comments. Councilor Fascio, any comments?
Just in terms of the manager's report, I want to point out a couple things that I find significant. And I've always been amazed at the ability to find money, and the grant listing kind of displays the breadth of that. In addition, the fact that we saved money on police overtime.
Yeah, who would have thought that's possible?
I think mainly because we had a complete staff and better management of the force. So I want to be extremely thankful for that, and like to see more of that coming. So Keep saving money.
And we're going to be, as we implement the 12 hours, we're going to be working with the department
Sure.
to make sure that it works. We want it to work as much
Well,
as they
I
do.
think we identified early on that that was a key variable that we'd be watching, so certainly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Crestus, any comments?
Thanks, Mayor. Just quickly, I want to take a moment to thank our leaving planning director, Chris Blackwell, for your career of dedication in Penn Hills. You're in a very unique position, Chris, where you can drive around our community and see the fruits of your labor everywhere you look. And we are a better community for your dedication. Thank you very much, and please enjoy your retirement.
Thank you. Incidentally, we will be acknowledging that shortly, so, Councilman Waldron.
Yeah, sure. First, I'd just like to thank Scott for that comprehensive update, and thank Sean for advocating for adding that to our meeting. I think it's going to be really good to hear what we're working on ahead of the votes as we move forward through this year. And for those people who are asking, what does the municipality actually do? Well, there it is, and there's your answer. Also, I'd just like to take a second to promote, again, the Penn Hills Passport mobile app. It's a new app that's been built and released by the Penn Hills CDC. It features all the news and events and lots of resources around the community. So if you haven't downloaded that yet, you can do so. Go to pennhillspassport.com, and you can get it there. That's all I got.
Thank you. I would like to echo what Councilwoman Fascio said about the grants. We do get multiple grants, many grants, large grants, and that is a direct reflection of the ability of our department heads and our departments and our staff. I say it all the time, Penn Hills is the largest municipality, close to 30 neighborhoods, and we are so fortunate to have a professional staff here. And we do have great confidence in you all, and that's part of the reason why we get these funds, is because we've proven over and over that we know how to use them. And when I say we, I mean you directors really know how to direct us. Also, we are very excited about switching to 12-hour shifts. Believe it or not, this took a few years to do, and we really only had two options, right? You could do the old steel mill shift, which they had been doing, and I believe this will be implemented in March. We have the largest municipal police force outside the city of Pittsburgh. We have a full complement. We have the most diverse police department ever in Penn Hills, and part of that resulted in overtime savings. But the 12-hour shift, I think that it has a reflection of a couple things. Number one, it shows the relationship between the administration, mayor and council, and the police department. I think we have a very good working relationship, and it took long to work out the kinks. I do a mayor's message every other week in the Penn Hills Progress, and I do what my son calls a joke sandwich. I tell a joke, and then I put the meat in the middle, and then I do another joke. And the first joke was, my boss told me to have a good day, so I went home. Okay, I guess, thank you. Thanks, Mom. But, part of it is we do have all of our officers have a great work ethic, but they work 6-hour days under the current schedule. And I cannot imagine any job where you work 6 days and get the 7th day off. So moving to the 12-hour shifts will give some weekends off. It's going to be a better recruitment tool. It's just a better work-life balance to not be constantly working. We expect to see, we will see a further decrease in overtime. This was never meant to be a cost savings measure. However, that it was always meant to be to prevent fatigue and burnout. And it's just a real nice side effect, as it will result in some overtime cost savings. It's also going to result in better public safety. I think it just stands to reason when you have better working conditions and you work better, in any capacity, but certainly whenever you're in public safety and you're out there and you have to make split-second decisions like that. I think when we don't have a force that's fatigued or burning out, that they're going to be, the goal is to have better working conditions for them. So I'm very proud that we were able to come to an agreement, and as we move forward to the 12-hour shifts, that's something exciting. There are so very many things we can talk about tonight, but I noticed that former county executive.
In your resolution, you said that we could comment on managers' reports. I just have 3 comments. In the resolution,
We've all,
you never asked for public comment on the manager's report.
with the agenda came, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
There was no action item on the manager's report to comment on.
Yes, there is.
There's no action, there was no vote on the manager's report. The home rule charter requires the mayor and council to provide a public comment on each action item. There was no action item on the manager's report.
I agree, but Mr. Carestas' resolution for the rules this year that you adopted last meeting calls for public comment on the manager's report. If there's something the public hears that they want to get in the record, that's all. I have just 3 short things. Check the resolution. He created it, you passed it. That's what it says. That's a point of order. I would have been done by now. I swear to God, it takes 1 minute.
We sent the agenda out already. We've moved on to comments now. Please feel free to, we can,
Your resolution.
okay. We're going to move on now to, I would like to say that we're delighted to have former county executive Rich Fitzgerald, who just came in. As you may know, it is with great sadness, but happiness for him. Our planning director, Chris Blackwell, is retiring. In fact, he may be officially retired. So this will be his last meeting. And we would like to thank you very, very much for your service. But in the meantime, there's a very prestigious award that is, we've got a very special guest here tonight to make a presentation.
Should I come up, Rich?
Well, yeah.
And you thought you were done with me.
Never.
Mr. Planning Director, and Joy Ruff, also of the Local Government Academy, is with me today. And thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council, manager, et cetera, Mr. Solicitor. It is with heavy heart that a lot of us who served and serve in local government are sad to see the retirement of Mr. Blackwell. Glad that he's going to be doing some good things. But what we're here to announce here today, along with Joy from the Local Government Academy, is the very prestigious Joseph A. James Memorial Award that is given out by the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission. As executive director now, my new job as executive director of the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission. That's the 10-county planning organization for Southwestern Pennsylvania, including obviously Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. And this award, and I'll read the, I don't want to break it. I'm going to give it something. Can you hold that so I don't, last thing I want to do is break it. Read it. It's for, it is, it's not a one-year award. It is a Lifetime Achievement Award for a lifetime of exemplary governance. And I don't think that says any more, or who represents that anymore than Chris and what he has done for the last 30 years, 10 years as planning director, doing so many things. Sorry, I was running a bit late tonight. I was at one of the other Ps in the VOP. I was at Plum at a meeting tonight that I had to go to, and the VOP is going to be one of those things when it gets done that we're all going to enjoy in generations in the future, and so many things. I think it was already said that you drive around this municipality and you see things that Chris has had his fingerprints on for so many years. I'm going to ask Joy, who runs the local government academies, probably trained many of you over the years when you became newly elected officials, to say a few words. Joy.
Thank you. On behalf of Local Government Academy, we want to thank the municipality of Penn Hills for having such pride in your employees. They're public servants. You put up with a lot in any day. But one thing that Chris brings is a dedication to the planning profession and a commitment to mentoring young people and growing the ranks of municipal planners. So on behalf of citizens everywhere, we appreciate your commitment to the community, to Penn Hills, and the planning profession. Congratulations on your retirement.
Before he gets up here, let me just say, the manager and so many people recommended Chris. There was no dispute. There was sometimes we have contentious votes in government. No. But this was an easy one because what Chris has done was just, it was a unanimous consensus that everybody knew the great stuff that he's done. Chris?
Thank you. I got to figure out where I was supposed to start. But I think, first of all, I'm humbled to receive this award and to be nominated for it. And then to receive it from Rich, one of my mentors and huge supporter, and also Joy as well. These are colleagues for my entire career that I've had. But I think it's important to point out that Joseph A. James, he was a professor at the Graduate School of Public and International Affairs at Penn. And we can talk, I'm looking, you're trying to figure out, I'm getting this award, I've got to look up who this person is and learn about this person. And it's important that you're comparing the achievements that you have. And so, I'm looking at the things he did, and he was an advocate for intergovernmental cooperation and professionalism in the planning field. So, it's not the work that you've done and the hard work you've done, or the things that you can recognize and see. We use the VOP trail, for example, Rich mentioned here, which frankly would not have happened without his vision to go from Steel City Rowing to Boyce Park. So I think that, but the thing, so I'm looking over these things, and the advocate for professionalism, and then I saw where it was, he was recognized as a mentor, a colleague, and a good friend. And that's where I feel like, when I was reading it, I thought, that's what I've done. I feel like I have given respect to my colleagues and my coworkers in organizations in the community and staff and mayor and council, and I've received that in return. So it's not so much the work you do, it's how you do it and the people you work with. And then we've mentioned tonight a little bit about, I mentioned about the confidence. And I have to say, in Penn Hills, when I came to Penn Hills, we're a unique community. We always talk about the size of the community. But it's small enough that you can drive down the street and you can witness the things you've done. You can see the things that you've done. But it also, I realized working on the VOP Trail and working with other communities, and having worked here as a career, you don't realize that the confidence, the capacity, the budget, I can go to Stephanie and Sherry and say, this is a project that we're doing, and you have the confidence. The mayor, I applied for $2 million, and the mayor says, so that's like a buy one, get one free, right? So, but a lot of communities don't have that. There's representative communities here tonight that don't have that kind of, the budget, and I think it's unique. And I'm glad that you trust the planning department, you trust me to carry out these projects. And I'm sure I said it earlier, is that the Middletown section of the VOP Trail is fully funded. We've got funding from Regional Asset District, from DCNR, from DTRP, and all those things wouldn't happen without these folks here. So, but to receive this is, it's really, I think it's a recognition of something that I really have pride in, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. One last thing I just want to say, I'm really frustrated that you passed the resolution to have department reports after I left.
That's why we waited, Chris. We can't stay here
You
till
think
11.
Scott's long-winded, let me tell you.
If you, would you be so kind as to let us come down and
Of course.
thank you. I'll just, let me say that, what a tough act to follow, and I hope you do understand that this is an award that is, that he just received, so we really can't go without recognizing you, but we can't beat what you just got. And it really speaks volumes. I cannot say how impressive it is at the award that he just received. But nonetheless, as the mayor of Penn Hills, on behalf of council and the entire municipality, we offer this recognition of service. Penn Hills recognizes the honorable service that you have given to our residents and our businesses, having served faithfully and honorably in Penn Hills and helping to secure a positive future for our community. On behalf of myself and council, this certificate is presented to you, Chris Blackwell, with sincere gratitude for your professionalism and dedication to serving our community. And your legacy will go on even though you're leaving. We thank you so very much.
We still gotta go on that walk. I always tell everybody, I'll take you on the walk. We'll ride it together. Okay, that's right. Thank you.
Thank you so very much,
Thank
and we
you
wish
so much.
everyone we wish you the best on your retirement. And have a good evening, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.